Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. Can we talk for a few minutes today about public service? The reason I think it's an appropriate topic is I just watched Donald Trump give the commencement address to the cadets at West Point, the Army's military academy. And it made me think about the motto that governs the cadets while they are at West Point. And the cadet motto is that a cadet will not lie, cheat, steal, or tolerate those who do. Now, I think it's accurate to observe that Donald Trump lies and cheats and steals and surrounds himself with and rewards those who do. Not surprisingly, Donald Trump's commencement address devolved into a campaign rally where he was talking about China sending, the plague of COVID to the United States. And he talked about how the military was decimated until he rebuilt it with his own two hands. And he touted other faux accomplishments. It would have been nice if his comments were about the graduates. But today got me thinking about others who attended and graduated from West Point and the other military academies. I served on active duty in the Army for 6.5 years, but I didn't attend the military academies. I got to thinking about Mike Pompeo, who did attend West Point. And let's take a look at how Mike Pompeo has lived up to the cadet motto of a cadet will not lie, cheat, steal, or tolerate those who do. Let's start with the most recent revelation, the Mike Pompeo scandal du jour, if you will, where he fired, or actually urged President Trump to fire, the Inspector General for the State Department, Steve Linick. And thereafter, Mike Pompeo said, well, look, I just didn't like the job he was doing. He wasn't investigating me. And yet, what did we learn? Well, we learned that Mike Pompeo himself had been questioned by the Inspector General, by the Inspector General's office, about him circumventing congressional approval to do a big Saudi arms deal. So he was actually interviewed as part of that investigation, yet Mike Pompeo told the American people, I'm not being investigated. Really? Was his conversation, his interview with the Inspector General just idle chatter? Did Mike Pompeo not know that the way Inspector Generals do investigations is they interview people? Come on. Does that sound like it could be lying? How about stealing? We heard of another Mike Pompeo abuse, where he and his wife were having these lavish dinner parties for, among others, some high-value Republican donors. And Mike Pompeo, when he got caught, said, oh no, this is all State Department business. Has nothing to do with him potentially wanting to run to be a senator from Kansas in the future. No. Pure State Department business. These are lavish dinner parties with, among others, high-value Republican donors, all on the taxpayers' dime. We are paying for these dinners for Mike Pompeo and his wife. Does that sound like it could be stealing? How about cheating? Mike Pompeo has been caught taking endless trips to Kansas on the government's dime, at taxpayers' expense. We're paying for these trips. And he was doing it when he was with the CIA. He's now doing it as Secretary of State. And it's all official State Department travel and business. And yet, these trips have been so frequent and so transparent that a newspaper in Kansas, the Kansas City Star, recently published an op-ed saying, quote, Mike Pompeo, either quit and run for U.S. Senate in Kansas or focus on your day job, close quote. Now, Mike Pompeo, as a federal employee, is not allowed to engage in political activity because we have this thing called the Hatch Act. I labored under the Hatch Act for my 30 years as a federal government employee. The Hatch Act says we can't be involved in political activity when we're employed by the government. That governs Mike Pompeo as well. And yet he sure seems to be potentially setting up a run for office from Kansas. Does that sound like cheating? Now, do we know, can we prove that Mike Pompeo is violating the Hatch Act? Well, let's see. That would take an investigation being initiated by Bill Barr. You think we're going to have that happen anytime soon? But you know, there is an argument that Mike Pompeo is not even living up to the cadet code of not lying, not cheating, not stealing. But I saved the worst transgression for last, folks. Because as Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo is responsible for supporting, for leading, for having the back of all State Department employees. And can we talk about what happened to Ambassador Marie Yovanovitch, one of the employees that he was responsible to support and to lead? Remember how when she was serving in Ukraine, fighting corruption on behalf of the American people, and Donald Trump told President Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, well, that lady's bad news. She's going to go through some stuff. Yeah, that's some mob talk right there. And then the president yanked Ambassador Yovanovitch out of her post, pulled her back to the States. And then when she was testifying before Congress, remember how Donald Trump sent intimidating tweets out about her, bad-mouthing her, as she was sitting there testifying to Congress about, among other things, Donald Trump's misconduct. And what did Mike Pompeo do? He did nothing to support her. He did nothing to have her back. He did nothing to stop Donald Trump from bullying her, mistreating her, trying to intimidate her. You know, I don't claim to know a whole lot about leadership, but anything I do know, I probably learned in the Army. Now, sure, I also learned from, I think, my high school football coaches and wrestling coaches, my college football coach, my faculty advisor and mentor when I was studying journalism undergrad, a gentleman named Clark Mollenhoff, to whom I owe so much, and certainly my parents. But I think I learned the most about leadership when I served in the Army. What I learned is there are 3 rules of leadership, and they are support your people, and support your people. And Mike Pompeo has failed miserably at all 3. But as always, folks, it's going to be okay. Because come January, when we have a law-abiding president who fills his cabinet with leaders and secretaries that know how to support their people, whether it's Secretary of Defense or Secretary of State or Attorney General, these are going to be law-abiding folk who know the importance of supporting their people. Because if you don't support your people, your organization will fall apart. It's coming, folks. Justice is coming, and leadership is coming, and fairness and decency and honesty and integrity and compassion and an allegiance to the rule of law. It's all coming. It is coming. Hang in there. Please stay safe, and I look forward to talking with you all tomorrow.